Hello, everybody. Welcome back to the football experience. Another episode in the mixer. This time focused fully around the World Cup, sort of like last one. But actually, that was the plan, Caleb. But this Ronaldo just keeps on being in the news, doesn't he?
Oh no. Keep sabotaging the World Cup pods. This is the second time consecutive.
Yeah, but we agreed we're only going to spend like max 5 minutes on this. But the breaking news is that Ronaldo has been released by Man United on mutual consent by both parties, I believe. So would that mean that he's foregone some of his wages? And also, apparently, Man United is up for sale as well.
Yeah, Gary Neville will be quite happy today. So I don't know. There's not too much to say about this, like you said. I just don't think these stories around Ronaldo and United need to be given air to breathe, and it's what we expected. I guess it's what everybody wants. So let's move on and let's see what happens with Ronaldo after the World Cup. But more importantly, let's see what happens with him during the World Cup.
Yeah, maybe we can start I'm assuming and this is like generally the rule when like the Euros are on or when the World Cup is on during the summer. There's like there's pretty much no transfer activity in regards to players that are attending these tournaments. So my speculation is that we won't hear anything in regards to what potential club he might be going to until either Portugal is knocked out or until they win it. So, yeah, probably in 2 to 3 weeks' time, possibly 4 weeks max, we will find out
it depends on how Portugal do.
Yeah. So whether they get knocked out or whether they win it. So, but I think group stages is 2 weeks, if I'm not mistaken, or like a week and a half in terms of fixture schedule. So. Yeah, let's see where he may potentially go. I'm guessing he's going to a Champions League club though, because I think they removed that rule where if you play for in another European competition, then you can't play for another team in a European competition. Because I think last season I saw players that played in the Champions League. They were playing in the Europa League for a different club, so. He only played Europa League, so I'm guessing he's still Champions League eligible. So,
well, hold on to that until we start speculating. But
yeah.
That is interesting if you think it is a Champions League team, because obviously there's only 16 of them left. So
yeah.
Club Brugge, throw your hat into the ring.
Imagine that he takes them to the final and then just scores a 2.5 meter towering header.
What would be more impressive, him winning the Champions League with Club Brugge or winning the World Cup?
Both. He can do both in the same season.
Oh my god! All right, we gotta move on. It's hilarious.
Imagine he does that.
The switch back to early mornings got ya.
Imagine he does that though. He wins the World Cup for Portugal, and then he goes on to win. Is it Bruges or Brugge? Because you saying Brugge.
I don't know. I've been saying Bruges the whole time, but I think people have been saying Brugge, and maybe I'm just misinformed. So
I don't know.
I'm trying to swap it up. I'll make both parties happy.
My whole informed life, I've been calling them Bruges. So I don't know. Maybe we'll have to go into how Google do that pronunciation. Maybe we'll have to check that out. Or leave a comment down below whether it's Brugge or Bruges. Yeah. Anyway.
Oh, Belgian listeners.
the
I've been so hard on your national team in the build-up. I don't think they'll like me about how hard I've been going on in their national team in the build-up to the World Cup.
Well, rightly so. It's an aging generation, but look, I think we won't really. We're going to focus on the teams that have played. What's caught our eye? Should we talk about the most surprising result?
You want to go with Argentina first?
Well, look, let's be honest here. There hasn't really been any big games or games that have exactly caught our eye thus far. Most of the results have gone the way we expected them to go. Either ending in draws, for instance, Denmark, Mexico, or ending in resounding wins, England, Iran, or just wins like for the team that we expected to win. But like I guess this was the only shock, I suppose. So
Definitely.
yeah,
One
so
of the biggest shocks we've probably seen in a World Cup, definitely in our lifetime.
so look, Caleb, I want to get your thoughts on it because I've watched every game, but I haven't been watching every game intently. I've sort of been like on the tablet, or like just checking things and stuff like that, or on the laptop. But like the games that I have, like some games I watch a little bit more intently than others. But yeah, for the most part, like how intently can you watch England Iran, for instance?
Oh no,
Like
England Iran was a good one to
it
watch.
was it
I
was a
thought
decent one
because
to watch, I guess. But like it was pretty much a foregone conclusion, especially after like the third goal went in.
is anything a foregone conclusion with England? Especially how hard we've been bashing Southgate and the approach going in.
Yeah,
But I guess we'll save that for our England thoughts
yeah,
a bit
we'll
later.
save that for that one. But yeah, look, take it away on Argentina, Caleb.
Well, in terms of the match, um, I don't like that we're given these penalties first and foremost for any sort of contact. It's to do with marking. I know you can say like you shouldn't be doing that. Yeah, I get that, but at the same time, if we're going to be giving them, I don't know, we're setting a dangerous precedent for what could go forward in the World Cup. When I don't know, when you like Argentina were barely even complaining for that. So what's I don't know, what's the why are we going back and re-refereeing the game when no one's up in arms about anything that's gone on there? It's a bit odd. I don't really like it. It doesn't feel right, but hey, I guess don't give them a decision to make. So that's the first thing, but and it all felt set up. This is the stadium they're going to play the final. Messi's playing in this stadium opening match. Let's get him a goal. So, well, I guess we had seen one in the England game as well, given. So that's probably the precedent. Obviously, they're setting the precedent as well with added time, which I think is better than what we had. But there's still questions over whether it would just be better to go 60 minutes game time with the clock stopping. But obviously, you take away injury time goals, and that's the sticking point for me. They're such magical moments they can be in football. That last gasp, equaliser or winner or whatever it be. So I don't know. They're the points on VAR and the refereeing so far. But in terms of the game, I thought Argentina Solari straight away when I saw the lineup, I'm like, this is not the right team. This isn't the Argentina I A probably expected to be seeing and B would have really liked to see. I got the Paredes and DePaul would be starting in midfield because they've been playing pretty much every game. We saw Atletico DePaul, and it was funny because I messaged one of our friends while watching the game, and I said DePaul turns into a different player for Argentina after the first 15 minutes where he looked quite solid, and then after that he proceeded to shit the bed. He was Atletico DePaul all the way through. He didn't look like Argentina DePaul. He was all over the place, and then with that happening, Paredes just hides as he does. I don't think he's a particularly brave player. I don't think he's a bit of a nothing player. He doesn't really do anything. If the team is flowing and the team is playing well, yeah, he's neat and tidy and he can keep possession. But if the team comes under some sort of pressure, I think he just hides, he wilts, he doesn't really offer much. And especially when you saw when Enzo Fernandez comes on, when he gets substituted on, that's a player who's not afraid to pick up the ball. He's not afraid to put in a tackle. I thought Argentina looked so much better with him coming on. I thought they look so much better when Lisandro Martinez comes on for Christian Romero, who Christian Romero is still a player who leaves me with so many questions playing in a back two and playing on a month where he's gathering cobwebs, he's gathering rust. He hasn't played for a month or whatever it be. And I think you could see that as well. But in a back three, he gets away with his mistakes because he's got two more players behind him. But in a back two, you don't get that. And we saw that punish for the first goal. And then I think Argentina were a bit on tilt. They were rocking a bit and got hit with another sucker punch. And fair play to Saudi Arabia. The tactics were very good to hold although on another day in that first half, they could have been 3-0 down going into half time. If Lautaro Martinez can time a run, if Messi can time a run as well.
Oh, by
I thought
a centimeter of a shoulder. It's
the shoulder, it's ridiculous, I
yeah.
know. But they also did get the penalty, which for me was also ridiculous. So it sort of evened out. But that was such a nice goal as well. Such a shame to have that one ruled out. But having Papu Gomez and Angel Di Maria on the wings, I think the Saudi Arabia coach got his tactics completely right. To be quite honest, because there's no threat. There's no threat in behind when you look at Di Maria and Papu Gomez. And with all due respect to, well, maybe not Di Maria so much, because the last couple of seasons he's been a mercenary and he's just been waiting to play for Argentina for club, and I don't think he's deserved his call-ups, to be fair. But those two players have been past it for probably 2 seasons now. I really liked Papu Gomez back in the day, but now I think he's past it, and I just don't think they should be playing. Lo Celso is missed big time because there goes an option and a good technical player, but he's got a little bit of bite to him as well. So, but having said all this and having said that, I feel my takeaway is I actually feel strangely, I wouldn't say more confident in Argentina because they've just lost a match and a match they shouldn't lose. But I kind of feel it might be a good thing if we look at the narrative going forward. I think the World Cup comes to a point where every game is do or die, and Argentina have just reached that point a little bit earlier than probably would be expected. But now they're going to have to be in that rhythm of every game matters the most. Every game's a final, and that's how you got to play. Every game you can get knocked out from now. So there's no. Sometimes you see with a team who maybe England we'll talk about later, who come out of the blocks real fast, maybe win their first 2 games and they're qualified, and then they can make all those changes to the team. Maybe that takes them out of a rhythm going into that round of 16 clash. So it could be a positive thing there. And most importantly, for all the reasons I mentioned when talking about the game, I think Solari has either stumbled or he's come into what should be his lineup for the next game, with Enzo Fernandez coming in, with Julian Alvarez coming in for Papu Gomez. Maybe Di Maria still starts. He was at least trying to do things, but again, I think he's washed. But I don't know how good the options are to replace him either. But yeah, Lisandro Martinez, Enzo Fernandez, and Julian Alvarez all have to be in the team for Gomez. I'd say Paredes and Christian Romero. And I would also give a shout out to Guido Rodriguez, who could come into the team, because I think he could beef it up with a bit of physicality. But yeah, all in all, I'm not panicking for Argentina after that result.
Not panicking yet.
Well, like I said, every game now is a knockout game.
Yeah, they really need to make sure they come out of the blocks firing for the next 2 games. Otherwise, they risk getting knocked out. Just on I guess the refereeing there, I saw, and it was something that I didn't actually see during the game. It was something that the panel discussed after the game. And there was an egregious penalty that was missed in the 60th minute for Argentina. Do you remember that, how there was a crossfield ball played? And then I think it might have been DePaul that played it back across the box. And then Lisandro... the striker, the Argentina striker, the names just escaped my mind. Having a brain fart.
Oh, the handball. Was it a handball?
No, it wasn't a handball.
That might have been a different game.
Oh my god, who? Lautaro Martinez, not Lisandro. He scuffed it into his own Argentina player, and then it bounced, and then, but I think it was DePaul that played the ball across the box from the crossfield pass. And the Saudi Arabia player was he jumped into him to try and save the ball, and he studs DePaul that, and the panel showed that. I was like, holy shit, that's an actual foul. That is an actual penalty. When you're jumping so recklessly like that, with no control at all, and you stud a player's feet, how was that not looked at and that not given?
I I don't like those ones because I don't like how the foot naturally follows through after you've kicked the ball, after you've struck the ball,
He didn't
and then it
strike it
follows
though.
through into the studs.
No, he didn't strike it. Like, because he actually just like put his foot there to meet the ball. So he put his foot there. The ball bounces because he wasn't striking through the ball. So he just puts his foot there as like, I guess, a wall pass to play it back across. So his foot's always in the same spot. It's never swinging, and the Saudi Arabia player just comes in and just studs his foot. Like, that is 100% a penalty, and I was saying like it's a penalty and a yellow card for that kind of a foul because it's reckless as well. Like, I don't know how that wasn't looked at, because they were saying like maybe that wasn't looked at because the first penalty was so soft and poor that maybe they're like, oh, we'll even it out and not give this one. But that's egregious refereeing then, and then that's another minus to the refereeing team for then thinking that we can balance out the poor decisions with more poor decisions. Like, that, I don't get
Well,
that.
I don't want to talk about the decisions for too much, too
Yeah.
long. But what I will say is this goes into a bigger point of we're all going to do this sort of like victory lap. We're all going to do this sort of like praise, sort of like circus around Saudi Arabia for this result and for how fantastic they were to get this result. But like we said, first half, high line could have been exposed. But that's the risk that the manager was willing to take with the tactics, which paid off ultimately. So they could get pressure on that midfield, who like I said, Paredes could go missing. But yeah, also this decision, and on another day, Argentina walk away with 2-2, or maybe even go on to win the game from that point. So, like, it's just a bit overstated, all the praise we're going to give to Saudi Arabia, because it's not like they played well, they played above expectation, but I wouldn't say they outplayed Argentina. They just played above what we thought their level is, rather than outplaying their opponent.
National
So,
holiday in Saudi Arabia today. But look, like, from a defending perspective, like, yeah, they look. I wouldn't necessarily say, like, I always go back to like defending masterclasses. Is that the Barcelona Inter game at the Camp Nou in 2010? Like, everyone says that that's like, I guess, the pinnacle of like defending masterclass, even though they lost 1-0. But like, considering they went down to 10 men after like what, 15, 20 minutes, like, I always revert back to that as like the like top echelon of defending like masterclasses. I wouldn't necessarily say this was a defending masterclass. It was just like, yeah, you got your tactics right. You managed to get, 2 goals. One was like a great strike from like what, the edge of the 16-yard box. And it's just sort of, it's typical where like when the weaker team goes up by a goal, then they just sort of, they go more defensive because they're playing a little bit more on the front foot up until that second goal goes in. Like, they're actually trying to open up a little bit more and try to break a little bit more. Whereas like when it was 2-1, they then reverted City back, which made it harder for Argentina to actually create, because there was no spaces there. And like you said, having Di Maria and the names are just like escaping me, and Gomez, yeah, like they're not going to exactly run in behind and create that threat. But not that there was really any space for them to run in behind though, to be honest. But even so, like, even if there is a little bit of space, they still can't play those 1-2s where they can run in behind to try and catch them off guard, because they don't have the pace to run in behind. So
yeah, there's no explosion. There's no like sort of 5, 10, 15 yard, even for Messi, because prime Messi, where he's scoring that chance in the first 90 seconds, and he's also scoring from the interplay between him and Lautaro, but the older legs, he couldn't get to that ball now. So yeah, it's like, I think that's why Saudi Arabia went for that high line approach, because like, well, let's put him under pressure. Because
but they almost got punished for it. Like, they
of course,
Argentina,
and
they scored 3 offside goals, I think, if I'm not mistaken.
And yeah, and on another day, they should have been punished for it, because Argentina still have too much quality for them. But It'll be interesting though, and a con that I'll take away from this game, apart from the fact that Argentina lost, is has this given a roadmap to other teams who are better than Saudi Arabia to go out and say, hey, if we get in their faces, if we're proactive, they don't have threats in behind, and we can just control the game by playing this way. So that will be interesting in itself, because I think maybe a natural inclination against a team like Argentina, who are going into the tournament in many people's eyes as favourites, your natural inclination might be to sit back. But now, with this blueprint shown in the very first game, better teams might be looking at that very interested and going, hey, I think we can beat them for physicality, because they just really don't have those threats that can hurt us in behind here.
Yeah, like that could definitely be like the blueprint. However, like as you said, like when like bringing Alvarez on for Gomez, like that would give them an injection of pace. I'm not sure who they bring on for Di Maria though.
Exactly, that's my worry from this game, to be quite honest.
But even so, like maybe revert to a 4-4-2 though, and then just have Alvarez and Martinez up front.
Yeah, interestingly, I thought that was why Solari picked this team. I thought it was because he wanted more of a 4-4-2 shape to it, so he went with two wingers. But for me, Papu Gomez has never been a winger, really, in his career. I think he's better as a 10. And Di Maria, like we said, is past it. So I thought that was his thinking to do it, to go with that 4-4-2 shape. It might have to just be like a lopsided 4-4-3-3 or 4-4-2, however you want to see it, where DePaul plays as like the right midfielder, but he can also come in and beef up that central midfield and help them play from there. And then maybe you're getting players drift, or if it's still Molina, maybe he can overlap on that side. So it'll be interesting to see what they do. But I hope that it looks more like it did when the game ended than when the game started. Definitely.
Yeah. Who's in their group again? I need to bring up all the groups and stuff, because I need to then see who's next, who they're playing next.
Who is it? Oh, Poland and Mexico. So they have to play against Poland and Mexico.
Yeah, and the fact that ended as a 1-1 as well. Like if Argentina.
You're giving them too much credit here.
they both got 1 point. That's what I meant. Like, so the fact that they both have 1 point, though, if Argentina then draw against one of them, Argentina's on 1 point, they're on 2 points, and then if that team wins their last game, and then if Saudi Arabia win their next game, Argentina's knocked out. So both these next games are must wins for Argentina. They can't afford to even draw, because that first game was a draw.
Well, of course, drawing takes it out of their hands. I think a draw, they can still progress.
They can, but it makes it. But then,
exactly, it's out of their hands.
Yeah.
And so that's what I'm saying when I say now they've just reached the point of the tournament where it's do or die sooner than some of the other teams like England, France, Netherlands have all done.
Just while we're on that, like it's obviously been like a 14 group stage for I don't know since when. Was that been from the 1990 or? It
might be from the very start. I think four teams in the initial group stage has been off the top of my head, it's been from the very start.
Yeah, but then they have like 2 group stages.
Yeah, they've had stages where they had 2 group stages.
I'm just wondering, like, because you know how like there's talks of expanding the World Cup, like.
Well, they are, I think, for the next one.
Are they?
I think 2020. Yeah, I think 2026 might be.
Are they adding another group, or are they going to add one more team to every group to make it 40 teams? Because, like, I don't know, just thinking off the top of my head, like, and I know that the argument is then you're diluting the competition with worse teams, so you're getting less, at least in the group stages, you're getting less, like, big matches, even though like right now up until now we haven't had a big match yet. But like, I guess having a like 5-team group, at least then you're like you have a little bit more wiggle room if in case a result goes against you. Whereas if a result goes against you right now, you're almost knocked out.
Well, that's the beauty of this tournament. It's except for the group stage, it's all one game knockout stuff. So I get what you're saying, and you also the other added bonus is you get more of a sample size of the teams playing against more teams as well.
Yeah.
So you get the fairer team coming through. So you'd normally expect to get the better team. So yeah, in terms of that, I don't mind the idea, but I guess this is how it's always been. But that's never for me a good argument for it to always be the same
Yeah,
as well.
because you know how with the Euros, like I think they added 2 extra groups to make it 24 teams.
Well, side note on the Euros, I'm fascinated by the old Euros where they only had, I believe, the semi-finals and the final were the only like tournament games played in one country, and up until that point, you played two-legged. I think you might have played a qualification and then a two-legged like round of 16 quarterfinals, home and away to get into that semi and finals.
I haven't actually like
So yeah.
had a look at like the history of the Euros or whatnot in terms of like how the fixtures were and stuff. But like I hate how that works because then like with that logic of having 24 teams, then I think they take like the 4 best third place teams, and it's like
Yeah, I hate that.
and it's done by like how many goals they scored, and it's like it's so dumb.
They've
Like
done that in the World Cup as well.
Yeah.
There was a stage where they were doing that.
like why don't they just add a team to every group and then just have 5 teams per group, 2 teams go through. That's it. Like and then you don't have all this like crappy like inter-group like mathematics and stuff like that. But yeah, anyway.
Prefer that, yeah. When you're doing a when you're doing best third place finishes and they're playing, they might have had an easier group. It just doesn't. Yeah, it's not fair, really.
It's so stupid. And then like even if a team's like performed really poorly, because I think like the year that Portugal won it, I think they went through with like a 0 goal difference, but because other teams had minus goal differences, it's like. But you didn't perform any better yourself. Like I know you, like in the Euros at least with 16 teams or with 24 teams, that you do get more. I think you get more groups of death, and the competition is less diluted. But even so, like you're getting rewarded for playing poorly by having like the best third place team go through. So like screw that. Like just make it 5 teams per group. You have one game extra at least, so you can fix something if it went bad, and you have time to fix it, I suppose, because then you can play 2 bad games and still fix it in the last 2.
I must say, like you can't take out all the elements of luck that go into winning a tournament because I see you there in your Croatia shirt, and I must say England and Croatia were definitely the beneficiaries of being on the weaker side of the draw in 2018. Because if you look at the other side, it had Belgium, Brazil, France, even Uruguay were a strong team. Portugal were on that side as well. So
yeah, but
England.
But the thing is, like I think Germany got knocked out in the group stages, so they would have been on our side. Croatia finished top of their group.
Spain were the only other one who were there, and they got knocked out by Russia.
Yeah. So. But like.
I'm just saying, sometimes you get this luck. I know it's not luck because that team should have reached there. It's like when we'll talk about Bayern Munich. In the Champions League last year, it's like, well, you should have made the semi-finals, but at the same time, if you're Liverpool in that situation, you want to play, in terms of going through, you want to play Villarreal over Bayern Munich, so you got this piece of luck where it's like, hey, we didn't even need to play them.
But the thing is, like, in Croatia's case, like, we had Argentina in our group and we beat them, so we finished top of our group with 3 wins. So our reward was that we got put on that side, which... had Germany, or should have had Germany, should have had Spain. We played Russia in the quarters. So like we should have played Spain. Had Spain have done their job, we would have played. I can't remember. I think Germany would have been on England's side of the bracket. So England would have played Germany in either the quarters. I think had Germany have gone through. But yeah, like if these big teams aren't doing their jobs, then they only have themselves to blame. Also, Italy didn't qualify for that World Cup. I don't think Netherlands qualified either. So like,
The Netherlands did.
huh? They did, or they
No, they
I don't.
didn't.
Yeah. So potentially Netherlands and Italy could have been on that side of the bracket as well, had they have done their jobs in the qualification. So.
I love how defensive you got about this because I brought up Croatia's run in 2018.
From one perspective, I'm defending it, but like, but even so, like, if Croatia finished second in their group, then they would have faced France in, I think, straight away in the round of 16, right? So like,
Yep.
Croatia
They would have been put on the harder side of the draw, but
Croatia did their job.
They finished top.
Yeah,
Exactly. No. There's no. You can't take that away from them. You could just say
you're trying to.
they didn't. No, I'm not. I'm not trying to. But like the words you were using were should have played these teams, and they never did. So that's the only thing you could also say.
that's not England or
That's on them.
That's on them, exactly.
And England were luckier, to your point as well, because England finished runners up in their group and got put on an easy side of the draw. So
who was in their group, if you can remember?
it was Belgium.
Ah, okay. Yeah, and then if they,
I think
they would have had
that would
France
be a
in
good
the
segue
semis,
to-
essentially.
Yeah, to talk about this England, if we're done with Argentina, I
I think we're done.
summed it up.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So,
I'm
take it away,
interested to
though.
get your viewpoint actually on England, because I'm assuming you at least watched the first half an hour somewhat intently. Yeah.
For the first
And your boy.
my boy Sachs.
Yeah, your boy.
Sachs.
Yeah.
I don't know. For the first 10 or 15 minutes, I was like, this England team is looking very ordinary. Like, I just thought they weren't. It didn't they're creating some chances, but then after the first goal went in, and then even the second one, I think this first and second fell very in the same sort of 5-minute spell, if I'm not mistaken. So one, and it seemed like it was like that with most of the goals, where I think one goal fell and then another one quickly fell, and then there was a little bit of a break, and then one goal fell and then another one quickly fell, and then it happened like that in spells of 2 goals. But yeah, I don't know, I guess the result is can you say flattering, or I don't think anyone expected a 6-2.
I don't think it was flattering. I thought England were really good, to be quite honest, but I also know that they were playing against Iran.
Yeah, but they looked, I think maybe once the first goal went through, the nerves sort of settled, and they started to play with a little bit more control, a little bit more freedom, less nerves, obviously, and they started to look a little bit better. But again, it's look, you know how it's that adage where it's similar to what Arsenal get. It's oh, you only beat Bournemouth, or you only beat whoever, or Nottingham. It's you can only really beat the team that's in front of you. So you do your job, you beat these teams that you're supposed to beat, and then I don't know, we need to see how they're going to go against actual quality opposition. And at least if they're doing their job against these teams, for instance that Argentina should have done, then they can potentially play different players, get them a little bit more accustomed to the tournament, players that have never played in the World Cup, for instance Ben White, and maybe they can play them in the third game, so that if they're called upon, because Harry Maguire went off after 40 minutes with, I'm guessing he re-injured himself. So, and then also I think Harry Kane went off with a potential injury. I think I saw something that apparently he's getting scans. So someone like Callum Wilson will then need to step up, and I think he got an assist if I'm not mistaken. So, and Callum Wilson doesn't have World Cup. I think this is his first World Cup if I'm not mistaken. So you need these players then to get some minutes under their belt playing tournament football, or playing World Cup tournament football. And that will then help them potential, like that should help them against when they play like I don't know who potentially can be on their side of the knockout stages, but like when they play like Germany or France or Belgium or Croatia, if we're going to be on their side, then the having more players play more minutes will help them then in the later stages. So yeah, they did their job. They looked pretty good, but yeah, again, no disrespect to Iran, but it's only Iran.
Well, one thing for sure, I get your point on a Trippier Ben White sort of change up there. I don't think that takes really anything away from the team.
No, Ben
but
White at centre back potentially.
Well,
Look, he hasn't played centre back this season.
Compared to the options, it's fine. But compared to the competition, I'm not too confident as one of the two. I think he has a little bit of that Christian Romero. I don't quite trust it as one of the two. But, as a right back, I fancy it. But like I said, compared to the option, considering, and I guess we didn't talk about this when the squads were picked, but considering someone like Chris Smalling or even Tamori haven't been taken to the World Cup, I thought both of them were fairly good value compared to the centre-back options.
Did Cody get taken? I think he did.
Yeah, and Connor Cody gets taken, which, look, I like Connor Cody. I thought he was really good for a spell there for Wolves, but international quality, I'm not. World Cup quality, more importantly, I'm not quite sure. So, yeah, Ben White, like you say, compared to the options, he's good, but I still probably prefer international Harry Maguire, which is a stunning thing to say because
the fridge.
He did his England.
The fridge.
Yeah, he just looked. He looked so much more confident, didn't he?
He actually looked impressive. I gotta say, especially like on corners.
Didn't he? Like I know you could blame him for the Taremi goal that makes it 3-1 or whatever, where he steps in where maybe he shouldn't. But at least he didn't look like the United Harry Maguire that we saw. But I think first thing we've got to say is well done to Gareth Southgate. He changed it. He went to a back four. I thought he picked the right players in the positions, and with a bit of favouritism because you got to say, in terms of club form, Jordan Pickford and Harry Maguire probably shouldn't be playing, but
even Sterling to a certain extent.
Even Sterling to an extent as well, especially with Phil Foden as an option. So, but I think the main change was the fact that it went back to a back four. Luke Shaw's looked really good since he came back to United and England, to be fair to him, considering he hadn't played for so long. Kieran Trippier, I think, has been fantastic this season and is always a reliable choice at right back. I don't really like Stones and Maguire when that's the point. That's because they only played Iran. We didn't see the centre-back partnership, the goalkeeper and the holding midfielder really challenged, and I think that's the soft spot of England. I think Declan Rice is good, but I question him because he's been playing for a questionable West Ham team this year. How he stands up to that pressure. But I guess a strong Europa League run last season helps him in terms of those high-pressure games. But the main player, I think, is the scorer of the first goal, apart from Harry Kane, obviously, and that's what I was going to say. If we're downgrading from Harry Kane to Callum Wilson, I don't think England are going very far into the tournament, even though I really like Callum Wilson, but Harry Kane is a different class, and you could see it, particularly for the second goal for Sterling, how good he is with the stop-start, and he doesn't even need to look. He knows he'll be there, and the cross is pinpoint. So Harry Kane is...
Harry Crane.
Harry Crane. No relation to Fraser or Niles. But yeah, no, he's different class. I think he might be the best striker at the tournament, although Olivier Giroud might have a say in that, but Lewandowski doesn't do it in a Polish shirt.
Yeah.
At the World Cup. But to be fair, he came up against World Cup Guillermo Ochoa, who is just a different beast in World Cup. So he cancelled him out there. But yeah, I think Jude Bellingham, and I've thought this for a few months in the lead up to the tournament. I always thought he'd be the difference maker for England to see how high the ceiling of this team is. And I think after this first game, we can see a really high ceiling for England. But strangely, after this game, you'd think you'd feel more confident, and you do because he changed his shape and they played really well. But we see this a lot in World Cups, that team who starts fast and then sort of maybe expectations are back and everything's raised, especially for a nation like England, where I almost think it's better if they play with no expectations. But yeah, we could see that sort of scenario, and then when the legs get a bit heavier because of the higher pressure in a round of 16 quarter final, it doesn't quite work because they played a very high energy as well at the start of this game, very high pressing. It looked a lot like a Premier League game, to be fair, the way they wanted to come out and play, not your traditional leggy sort of World Cup game. So they were a very pleasant surprise, I'll say. But yeah, I'm still not convinced of how far they can go. But at least we saw that the ceiling is higher than maybe we thought, particularly with Southgate and his ability to I guess listen to the criticism that he was getting into the lead up and change it the way he did for the first game.
Yeah, but will he revert then to a back three once they come up against tougher opposition, which is the
That's the
expectation?
Yeah, that's the question.
But who would be the back three then? Would it be, because what if Walker isn't back? So is it Ben White, Stones, and Dyer?
I guess it would have to be, but it's sort of the Tottenham conundrum where you're sort of fitting in extra players because you don't trust your defence, and you're fitting in more ordinary players. Hopefully they continue to play this way, and then Southgate is convinced that this is the way forward, because as well, another point is the English FA have put a lot of money into changing their sort of coaching courses and changing the way the youth sort of play football in England, to be quite honest. And the way they played in the first game is the way that I guess they envisaged it going, and what they kind of wanted to instill into the youth generations, and sort of Jude Bellingham leads that sort of generation, and Bukayo Saka, who was fantastic in the game as well. They lead that, and Declan Rice isn't old himself, so this is the way they want to play, and it's time to put your money where your mouth is and see it through and play that way, win, lose or draw throughout the tournament, I think. And I also think it gives them their best chance of winning, because I think if they can keep up that high energy against teams who won't want to play high energy, then it's to their benefit. But it becomes a lot harder to do that at a quarterfinal and semi-final stage of the World Cup. So, yeah, all those things are going to be interesting to see with England. But good start and pleasantly surprised is my takeaway.
But how much confidence does that if Harry Maguire is actually injured and he doesn't play anymore, Dyer and Stones, how much confidence does that give you? Or Cody and Stones?
Very little. John Stones is your primary defender, I think says it all.
But even he's had his injury troubles
exactly,
a couple of weeks prior to the World Cup.
I think John Stones is an able second, sort of the second guy in a partnership when he's playing next to a Ruben Diaz or something like that. But when he's the first guy and the guy playing next to him is Connor Cody or Eric Dyer, I don't really like that very much.
Well, he might end up reverting to a back three with Ben White, Stones, and Dyer. But then who plays in the centre of that partnership?
Well, I guess Dyer had been for Tottenham, but in the last game before the World Cup, I think Conte moved him to the right-sided centre-back, so that might be Stones.
Yeah, but that right-sided centre-back is where Ben White would play.
Well, he has to be there, so it would have to be on the other one would have to go on the left.
Yeah, or you put Stones on the left. But yeah,
all options, but all not great options. But to be fair, when you go through each squad, I don't know who has great defensive partnership options. There's a few countries that have better than England, no doubt.
France is decent.
Upamecano and Konate. Konate has talk about injury problems. I expect him to be out for 3 weeks after playing 90 minutes.
Well, why isn't Saliba there though?
I think Saliba. I don't think Deschamps quite trusts him. I think Saliba's a bit young for Deschamps' liking.
Yeah,
and Upamecano, don't get me started on club form for Upamecano. If we see any of the Bayern Munich creep into him, then I don't fancy that.
Yeah, ever since his move to Bayern, he's been horrible. Remember how we were saying that, like, he's the next big thing, and like, you wanted him at Liverpool, like when he was at Leipzig, like everyone was hot on him, and then ever since his move to Bayern, he's just like, I don't know, he's playing like United Maguire.
Well, is this our transition to France, or was there anything else left to pick off with the England bone?
Not really. We can move on to the French. Um, it started off a little bit fun. Like you thought after Saudi Arabia beats Argentina, and then Australia go 1-0 up after 10 minutes. You're like, holy shit! Like, could there be another upset? Especially with the injury troubles that France have had. Like going into the tournament, what Kante's missing, Pogba's missing, and Cuckoo gets injured in training. So I'm not sure whether I think they replaced him because like they still had time to replace him. Varane is going into the tournament injured, like not 100%, similar to like a Kyle Walker for England. Benzema got injured just like 2 days ago.
Big one.
I don't know if he's gonna be if he misses the whole tournament or whether he.
Yeah, no, he's out.
He's out. Okay, so that's confirmed that he's out. Okay, he's injured. I think there's a couple other ones. I swear they have like 5 or 6 or 7.
Well, you never trust, like I said, Kanate. You never trust Jules Koundé either. In recent times. So,
but I swear there was like 1 or 2 others on top of like.
And
all
then
the ones
Lucas
that I named.
Hernandez gets injured today. So
Yeah, but didn't he continue playing for the game or no? Or was that?
No, he came straight off after that.
Okay.
Theo, he came on, man. Come on, we got to show him some love soon.
But yeah, like it's weird though. Like France are having all these injuries, and then like also like England gets 2 injuries in their.
You haven't. Well, sticking to France, you haven't talked about the curse either. The curse of the champions, the curse that's been put on by their players on each other.
Yeah, like, but then I think Tiff also said like, what if there's a general World Cup curse for like all the workers that died building the stadiums? Like, what if they're cursing the actual World Cup itself?
How would that work? Take out the best players and the best teams and leave us with the rubble.
Yeah, potentially.
No. On that point, that was the opening night horror show that Qatar dished out. That was the culmination of all that. I think the absolute egg that they laid on the biggest stage, the stage where they were meant to show their worth. And this team was the team that were Asian champions, and that was. One of the worst performances by a home team in any world. Well, they're the only home team to lose the opening game on home soil. Yeah.
Huh.
South Africa are the only team not to... not to win it, but South Africa are the only team not to get out of the group as a host nation, and now Qatar are the first team to lose the first host to lose their opening game.
Well, Qatar...
And that was an egg.
They aren't
So there was your curse for me on that topic.
Yeah, well... I think there might be. We'll see how as the games progress, whether there'll be more injuries to more players, especially more top players. Also, just while we're on that, I saw a picture of Messi's ankle. Like, apparently, looks like a bloody I don't know, like a watermelon almost. Like it's absolutely like swollen, and I think like going into the Saudi Arabia game, I think he trained by himself as well. So like even Messi potentially has some injury woes.
Yeah, it's not good.
Yeah, but anyway, France v Australia, it just wasn't to be, I guess. There is such a gulf in quality. Like this, I wasn't necessarily impressed with. Alright, I was more impressed with Australia's general team play than France's general team play. Like, it looked like Australia were a better team, but the quality of the players let them down. Like, misplacing passes, miscontrolling passes as well. Whereas, like, France, especially in the one-on-ones with the wingers, with Mbappe and Dembele, it's like, are you facing like prime sort of prime left and right, well, prime in terms of their age, left and right backs, or are you versing like 50-year-old men that like literally cannot move? Like it just looked like they were stuck in the mud or something. Like just the difference in speed and athleticism alone. Like forget about quality, just speed and athleticism. Like it's such a gulf between the teams. Like it's actually amazing. So like, not only are they better quality, like in terms of individual quality and technical ability, but their athleticism and their speed is like a level or 2 or 3 levels beyond as well. So like it's just an uphill battle after that. Like especially after like the first 2 goals went through, it's like, well, this is. I think they came in pretty quick succession as well. I'm just like, well, this game's over. Like I can't see Australia like scoring another goal, but they almost did. They hit the post around the 45th minute or something before the end of the first half. But even if that went in, like France is most likely going to go on to score another 2, which they end up doing anyway. But yeah, it's unfortunate because, like I said, the team play was better by Australia.
Maybe Australia did start the match well. I will give them that. And I to your point, I did like the teamwork between the players. But when you have the quality that the French have, despite all the names that we rattled off who were injured and missing, and that's the bigger point for me as the takeaway, is that, well, firstly, to address the storylines going around the French going into this game, the ones that we sort of talked about, numerous curses, numerous injuries. I think that this is all kind of falling into place for the French, to be quite honest. I think that Deschamps is sort of stumbling into almost the perfect scenario. Expectation has been somewhat slashed with all the injuries. Mood around the French has been somewhat slashed through that and the various curses. We see an early goal for Australia and we're thinking, oh, what's happening here? Are we looking at Senegal 2002 again? But the injuries have almost, even up until into the game, where we see the Hernandez brothers change. And come on, Didier Deschamps, what are you doing? It's never Lucas. I swear he gets them wrong. He just gets them mixed up. Like, how can you think Lucas Hernandez is a better player than Theo Hernandez? I don't understand it in any way, shape, or form. I know you can get more of a mixed bag, and I guess he wants to go the safe option, as we saw with Theo Hernandez in this game, particularly early when he came into the game. He gave away a few loose passes. But what you get in terms of the creativity and what you get in terms of the danger that him playing on the same wing as Kylian Mbappe can create is something very frightening, I must say. I think Kylian Mbappe by himself is already scary enough. But when you put a player like Theo Hernandez who can overlap, who can underlap, who can play as a central midfielder, who can drive with the ball and create 2-on-1s by beating his man, and then you put him with a player who can also beat his man, I think it's a scary proposition. And I think that is sort of the cherry on top to how this French team has fallen into place, because there would have been a temptation to not start Giroud, but I think the French have always played better with a recognised number 9. We saw it in 2018. Olivier Giroud plays every match, maybe not the last group stage match. Doesn't score a goal in the whole tournament. Stefan Givash, or in 98, I think was the recognised number 9, did not score a goal in the whole tournament. Was seen as many by a waste of space because Thierry Henry was an option, and it would have been the same with Christopher Nkunku and Karim Benzema as options. But now those options have been taken away, and you have to play with pretty much the same team that won you the World Cup in 2018, but with an upgrade in Theo Hernandez at left back for me, and probably more offensive by playing Dembele as a winger as well as Mbappe. It'll be interesting to see if he sticks with that. Maybe he has to stick with that because he doesn't have the option of having a good central midfielder like a Blaise Matuidi who you could play out there. Your options are a Guendouzi, a Veretout. I don't really know, but it's bad enough that you already have to play Rabiot, who admittedly was very good in leading the comeback with the goal and the assist for the 1-1 and the 2-1. But yeah, and a big shout out as well to Chouameni, who is, and here's the question on the back of that, and it might lead into the next team we'll talk about, but I thought Chouameni was excellent in this game, albeit against Australia. Again, we have to say that little asterisk because they're playing very weak opposition. But I thought it was fantastic. We've already talked about Jude Bellingham. And I guess another name you could probably throw into there would be Cody Gakpo for the Dutch as well. But in terms of these young players who are coming through, Bukayo Saka as well, can't forget to mention him. Who's probably been the most impressive? Who do you see having the highest ceiling in the tournament? Before we see the other side of the draw as well, where we've got some good young players who we can watch on that side as well. But yeah, out of the ones we've seen so far, who have you been most impressed with, and who do you think has the highest ceiling for the tournament?
I don't know. Like, if I go with, like, for instance, when I was watching Netherlands, I wasn't too impressed with them. I guess Gakpo is like he's their main attacking threat, really. Whereas, like, for instance, like a Saka for England, like, he's one of many attacking threats, but he still shone in this game where he was one of many. And also, like, I guess the expectation for Saka isn't that high, considering he's been part of the England setup since he was like 19. He's only 21 now, if I'm not mistaken. So, like, you expect him to do well anyway. Tukumeni, this is his first World Cup. Same for Saka, I guess. This is his first World Cup, but he played at the Euros at least. So it's not his first international tournament. But for Gakpo and Tukumeni, it's their first international tournament. So I guess there's more of a question mark in regards to how they're going to handle, I guess, the whole fixture list and expectations and everything like that. But I don't know, maybe because the thing is, like, Gakpo is the main attacking threat for the Netherlands, but Tukumeni is going to be the main centre midfielder for France. So whereas, like, someone like Saka, it's like, well, if he doesn't play, Sterling plays there, or Rashford plays there, or Foden plays there. So yeah.
Well, what about Bellingham as well? Would you say he's the main?
Bellingham as well.
Yeah.
I think because the other two players, like, Tukumeni doesn't necessarily need to carry France. He probably needs to carry that French midfield, big time. But all he needs to do is really get the ball and give it to Dembele or Mbappe, really, or to Giroud, and then let Giroud play it to either of those wingers. Whereas, like, Gakpo as well, like, he's expected to actually, like, finish and like win you games. Whereas, like, with Saka, it's like, if he's not playing well, then you expect Bellingham to play well, or if Bellingham's not playing well, you expect Rice to play well, and he can, I guess, carry that 10 or 15% that is lacking from Bellingham, for instance. So there's more pressure or more load on the other two players. So, like, I think their ceiling might be higher in that sense.
On the players who have the heavier load.
Yeah, because if they can then like perform in worse teams, they look better themselves.
Yeah, I agree, and I guess I don't know if you had anything more to add on France before we maybe transition to the Dutch.
Not really. Like, I guess we almost had a shock result for the first 20 minutes. It wasn't to be, unfortunately, for all the Aussies. But similar to, I guess, the England-Iran game, you expected France to win this and win it comfortably, and they ended up winning it comfortably. So, yeah, we need to see how they go, considering the team is depleted of talent. But then again, like, France could field two teams that would be the first team for almost any team here at the tournament.
I don't think we can say that anymore with all the injuries. If we have a full roster to
No, but-
choose from, then I
Yeah,
agree.
yeah, no, but what I'm saying
the
is, like,
place we're at now, I don't think they can get. I honestly don't think they could get any more injuries.
no, I know,
Maybe
but like,
Dembele.
but what I'm saying is,
Maybe.
like, considering like half of their first team, looks like it's injured, yeah. Like with Varane, Kante, Pogba, Benzema, etc. So like half of their first team is injured. So like their second team comes in. So their second team is now their first team. But that second team could have been a first team for any one of these teams almost. Like if you look at some of the players that have come in, you're like, okay, they could potentially start for Brazil. They like one or two of those players could potentially start for Brazil, could potentially start for England, especially like the centre backs. Like England would take Kanate. I think they'll probably take Upamecano as well.
Yeah, definitely.
So like even these like players that would be like part of France's second team, they'd still be first team players in a lot of these. Like England, would they take? Is it Tchouaméni or Tuchumeni?
I say Tchouaméni.
Tchouaméni. I think it's Tchouaméni. Yeah. Would he potentially start for England? Considering you got Rice and Bellingham.
That's actually a tough question,
Yeah.
and there wouldn't be many tough questions you'd ask of Tchouaméni on club form and form for country. So, yeah, I think he's almost a hybrid between Rice and Bellingham. And if you asked him to do either job, he could probably do either job. And whether that means he starts ahead of either of those players, I don't know. But maybe for his value to I don't know, clubs and country, the fact that he can do both is maybe more valuable to some.
Yeah, it's an interesting one. But yeah, pretty much like I said, this France second team, they're any team's first team, essentially. So yeah, I think they should be fine so long as they don't get any more injuries. But it's still going to be interesting how they go against Denmark, because Denmark have gotten the better of them twice in the past 4 or 5 months. And then how they go against like a Germany or an England in the knockout stages, or I don't know. Like I said, I haven't seen, depending on how teams progress, where they all end up on the sides of the draw. So I don't know whether England can be on their side if they both finish first and whatnot. So yeah, it'll be interesting how they go against Tier A competition, let's say.
I think your England comparison for France is pretty spot on in terms of they got it right. Whether Southgate actually got it right, Deschamps has stumbled into getting it right. But what worries me is the heart of the defence, the goalkeeper,
even the midfield,
the two centre backs, and the holding midfielder. And I know we've just praised Tchouaméni, but the fact is he's still a young footballer who's finding his way in the game, and this is the biggest stage the game has. So to expect him to be the primary midfielder for a World Cup winning side is a lot, but the talent is no doubt there that he could do it. So high ceiling, but let's see how that unit in particular go for both the English and the French against tougher tests. But I think it's a good. And yeah, and that Denmark game is the next game up as well, just as a side note. So that's sort of probably you'd expect to decide who will finish top. Although if the French win it, Denmark are in a bit of strife to even get out of the group, which honestly I wouldn't be too upset at, because I don't really like watching Denmark play too much. And they seem to go deep. They went deep, obviously, in the Euros as well. And I don't really want them in the quarterfinals of the World Cup, if I'm honest. But hey, they're a solid team, and you expect them to give the French a test in the next game. But I guess it's time to move on to the Dutch, and we brought up Cody Gakpo, how he has to be not only a finisher as well for that team, but a creator as well, because I don't think they trust the Depay fitness, as evident in him coming on after 60 minutes. And yeah, I agree with you. I was unimpressed by the Dutch, but weirdly, again, I guess it's tournament football. It's doing weird things to me, and it's making the vibes overtake the logic. But I feel oddly more confident for them that they can come up against a pretty stern test in Senegal. Obviously, a Senegal missing Sadio Mane, and that was absolutely evident in this game. You could see how much they were missing him because I thought the physicality in the press and the solidity in midfield was good, and they were forcing a few mistakes from the Dutch, but they never had anyone who sort of threatened to score a goal up front. So it's pretty, and you had players like De Ligt and Van Dijk a little bit all over the place at times, and that's why they were
De
a little
Jong
bit
was all over the place as
unimpressive.
well.
Yeah, and he had that chance in the first half, and
But even his
obviously
passing,
wanted to,
and it was a little bit
wanted
off.
to play out a lot. But obviously, he sets up the goal for Cody
Yeah,
Gakpo as well. So,
but just before you go, like,
um,
I just want to mention, like, it's you can clearly see what players are playing week in week out for their clubs. Like with Frankie, like he just seems off the pace, like with his passing, his control, and everything. Like he just seems a touch off. So maybe this tournament will actually help him for Barcelona then.
I must say, with Frankie de Jong, the thing that I noticed, and I think the thing that made him such a fantastically exciting prospect at Ajax was that he was the lone holding midfielder, and everything ran through him. And you could give him the ball in very tight spaces, and he could draw two or three players, and then release the ball for the team to expose the space. He sort of collapsed defenses. And I thought that's what made him special. But in recent years, we've seen him play more box to box, particularly at Barca because Busquets fills the role. And obviously in this Dutch system, it's a it's a 5-5-2-1-1-2, I guess you'd say. So naturally, in a two-man midfield, there's a lot of space either side that you've got to get to. So he's a bit more. He's not as set in his position, and I don't like that as his role. I would prefer to see him with two other midfielders next to him. And see, the thing I would have done is if you want to play Berghaus, I would have played Berghaus and Koopmeiners as either side of Frankie de Jong, and then just put Gakpo and whoever, probably Bergwijn, to start the game. And there's no need for Vincent Janssen to be in that team. Maybe go a more fluid situation up front, but give a bit more help so Frankie de Jong can play that role, and also to get Koopmeiners into the team, who I think is one of their better players and I think should be playing from this point on. Because if it's a question between Berghaus and Koopmeiners, for me it always has to be Koopmeiners. I just think he's a better player. And we saw when he came on, much in the Enzo Fernandez sort of mould, I thought the Dutch instantly looked better for it, a bit more energy in that middle of the park, a bit more of a press. So, yeah, very unconvincing, but at the same time, they've walked away with the points against what many perceive to be their main rival in the group. They should sort of sail through from here. They should get better from here as well. You expect Van Dijk and De Ligt to have better games from this point on, although can you expect it with probably both of their form going into the tournament? I don't think De Ligt's been necessarily the answer that Bayern Munich were hoping he would be at the first half of the season, and it's well documented how sort of off form Van Dijk has been so far. But yeah, weirdly, because of all those factors, because they didn't play well and they still got the result, I somewhat feel that they could grow into the tournament, and I still feel that my sort of assertion that they gave me 2014 vibes under Van Gaal as well. I don't think it's very far off the mark, except this time I think their defenders have a higher ceiling than what they had back then. And on that point, it's interesting because I think there's a sort of Virgil van Dijk legacy sort of thing that we can look at if they were to go deep, if they were to make a final, maybe even win a final if they do grow into the tournament. Obviously, that's a long way away after this first performance. But if they were to do that, his legacy now becomes of not quite that Franz Beckenbauer, but maybe the modern day Franz Beckenbauer, where he's won everything in the club game and been part of a really sort of, for me, obviously for me as a Liverpool fan, but I think for European football, a pretty iconic club side, a pretty great club side, and then to be the first Dutch winning captain of the World Cup. I mean, a long way, I know, but yeah, that would put him on a different planet and an all-time great status without a doubt. If he's sort of a cult figure at this point, but that will put him on a different stratosphere. And I think they defend much the same way. When Franz moves back into that centre back and Virgil, they're sort of those cool, calm, collected characters. There's no doubt. Franz Beckenbauer is better on the ball, without a doubt, but Virgil van Dijk's pretty good on the ball as well. So I think I see those comparisons, but there's a long way to go to get anywhere near that resume, and it would have to start and end with winning a World Cup for the Dutch, which is not outside of the realms of possibility. I'm just saying. It's definitely not outside the realms of possibility. I mean, we look at who would have said Croatia would have made the final last World Cup. I don't think many would have. So if things pan out right, like we saw with that circumstance, and they play well enough, and those defenders, most importantly, I think those defenders have to play to their ceiling in the games that matter. De Ligt and Van Dijk, because their ceiling is very high, and if they can do that, they give themselves a chance to win games of tournament football, whether it be in the 90 minutes, in extra time, or in a shootout. So they're definitely not in my first bracket of contenders, but it's definitely not outside the realms of possibility that they could win it.
I just can't see them beating an England or a France or a Brazil.
I can see them beating an England.
I don't think they have the quality in the midfield or up front to beat an England. As lacking as what England are in defence, I still can't see it.
No, I think they have enough to compete in midfield, but like I say, those defenders have to play to their ceiling. And then it gives them a chance, and then it just takes one chance on the other end, because I totally agree. The attackers do not fill me with confidence in this Dutch squad. But tournament football isn't always like that, and sometimes you could just grind out a 1-0 or a penalty shootout win in the knockout stages.
Yeah, I still don't expect them.
Because on paper, they have one of the strongest, I think central defensive sort of rosters. I think on paper they have that.
Yeah, but you also got to keep in mind, I'm pretty sure this is the whole squad's first World Cup, unless there was some fringe players that were like part of the squad in 2014. Because they didn't make 2018, did they?
No.
Yeah, so
Stephen de Vrij, the one who pops to mind straight away. I think he's a survivor from 14.
Yeah, but he was probably just...
He's on the bench, yeah. He's probably not going to start.
Yeah, so like, other than like the coaching staff with Van Gaal and Edgar Davids, none of these players have any World Cup experience. Like, I guess it helps that they played at the Euros last year, didn't they? I think they were in the Euros.
I don't know about that. I'll look it up. You keep talking.
Yeah, but like my point is, like, though, for pretty much this whole, it's for all of this team, it's their whole World Cup, the whole first World Cup. Potentially for a lot of these players, it's their first international tournament as well, because I think Van Dijk has only played at 1 Euros himself. I think that might have been last year. Unless
I'm looking,
because it was last year. Yeah,
they did.
Yeah. So for a lot of, like I said, for a lot of these players, it's their first World Cup, second international tournament in 2 years. But yeah, I just can't see them scoring many goals. Like I don't really see that threat up front. But maybe like you said, they can grow into the tournament. Especially like with like the defense is pretty decent. The midfield, like with if Frankie can find some form, because he's going to be playing a little bit more, then potentially as well he can grow into the tournament and sort of take over. But yeah, like I don't, depending how kind or unkind the round of 16 draw is, I can't really see them getting past the quarters, because in the quarters then they're most likely going to come up against one of those better teams.
Yeah, I pretty much agree with that. But I'm just saying, once you get to the quarters, if your defense is strong enough, you give yourself a chance.
Yeah, true. And Van Gaal knows exactly how to actually grind through the World Cup as well. Like he led that Netherlands team to a semi-final, and were it not for Mascherano tearing his his anus. Uh, they
Could have been
probably
a final.
they could have been in the final, and maybe they would have got the better of the Germans as well. Maybe they would have matched up better than Argentina.
That's all ifs and buts.
It's all ifs and buts, but yeah. Is there any other teams that you want to talk about? I know there's probably like one or two games that we didn't talk about. If you want to quickly touch on, I don't know. It's like we sort of touched on Qatar, Ecuador, Wales, USA. If you want to touch on that, and Poland, Mexico as well. I don't know if any of those games really.
No, they weren't. They were that. I thought the US in the first half, in particular, were much better than Wales. And I thought we saw a glimpse of what the US going forward could look like. But at the same time, I think they're very weak at centre back. That's first and foremost, and they're just naive because they're so young. That squad just seems so young, and if your leader is Christian Pulisic, I don't really like your chances of sort of being a grizzled sort of team who knows what to do in the moments, because sometimes he himself is quite petulant the way he acts, and even on and off the pitch in terms of, criticising Tuchel in the past and his family and whatnot. So, yeah, if he's one of your more experienced players, I don't like your chances. But, like I keep saying, and I think a lot of the indie football people have gotten onto this, but I think next World Cup on home soil for them, a lot of those players I think will be quite good by then, particularly Musa in the midfield, who I've seen a bit of at Valencia. I really like him, and he's only 19 years old, part of that generation. If Gio Reyna can ever stay fit, that will be good for them. Weston McKennie's been pretty good for Juve, to be fair, as well. And Josh Sargent up front, since we saw him at Norwich in the Premier League, he looks like he's put on like 6 or 7 kilos. He just looks jacked now, and it just looks like he's gotten used to the Premier League or the Championship now, and he knows you have to be quite physical there, because I was interested to see him start up front, because my memories were of him as this sort of, in the Aronson role at Leeds, the sort of diminutive midfielder, but never as probably as good as Aronson in the Premier League. But now he's a Jack number 9, and that was just interesting to see. But
he's on those he's on those Goretzka meds.
Right, no, it looks for real. I reckon he hit him up.
Slid into his DMs. Hey, can you hook me up?
But I still hope that they qualify over the Welsh, because I thought the Welsh were pretty uninspiring in most of what I saw for that game. But hey, I think it'll be touch and go between them. I think the Welsh experience might be enough to get them through, and that Gareth Bale penalty could be pivotal, as could Robert Lewandowski's missed penalty against Mexico. That could also be pivotal.
Yeah.
Poland the worst. So
is that a penalty for you? Just quickly. Holding the shirt, bringing him down by the shirt.
Yeah, but like it's another one of those where you've given the ref a decision, but I don't think anyone's up in arms if that's not given. I don't know. You're kind of re-refereeing the game again, but at the same time, the onus is starting to be on defenders. Just you can't give the referee a decision to make. In these circumstances.
I think, don't do stupid shit. Pretty much. Especially with VAR now, like you can't hold shirts, you can't hold players in the box. Like just don't do stupid shit. I know that.
But
I know that like that's, I guess, senior football, like doing these cheeky little things behind the referee's back when he's not, or like, because he was pulling the front of the shirt and the referee was directly behind them. The referee can't see the shirt pull, and neither can the assistant either. So it's those senior football like tricks, and you can't get away with those tricks anymore. So look, don't do stupid shit.
Yeah, I agree with that, and players are going to have to recondition themselves. But what I will say is, I always liked that players had to earn a goal. You had to sort of walk through the shit a little bit to get your goal. You got to get a little shirt tug. Maybe there's got to be a little, you have to really run through that brick wall to get your goal. And I don't know, I kind of like that. But that's got to be lost with VAR.
I think it's fair enough because, like, at the end of the day, it's still,
It is a foul.
and it's. I wouldn't necessarily say. Would you say it's cheating because if you're intentionally doing it, then you're breaking the rules, and isn't technically like the definition of cheating breaking the rules, knowingly breaking the rules to gain an advantage. So these guys are knowingly breaking the rules to gain an advantage, and they're getting punished for it finally. So and like you played midfield like your whole amateur career, whereas I played in the forward line for most of mine. So I say it's a good thing. So yes, fuck these defenders.
Of course, I was actually going to bring out that point.
Yeah, until the minute that fucking Lovren gives away a similar sort of penalty because he does stupid shit too.
Is he going to be starting?
I doubt it. He's probably he's probably there more for like like him and Vita are probably there more for the senior sort of mentality within the training camp. I'm guessing. I don't think they'd start. In all honesty,
How's the feeling? I guess this is a little mini preview section that we're just finishing on because kickoff is
in half an hour.
What, about half an hour away now? So how's the feeling around Croatia for the chances?
Look, I honestly don't. I honestly don't know because like it's winter here, no one is going out really, so it's hard to like
good point.
Really and like and not only is it like cold now, but like it's been raining nonstop every single day for like the past 4 or 5 days as well. So like no one can be stuffed going out. So like you don't see people out in the streets like wearing their Croatia shirts and all this stuff. So like people are just indoors. They're not even because of inflation and everything. Like no one's really going out to cafes really, from what I can see, because like to like watch the games or anything. But I don't know. The general feeling is that like obviously from what I can see on TV and everything is that like Morocco will be a hard game because I think one of the analysts said like apparently like 14 of the 26 they were actually born and raised in Europe, and like they came up through that European football system, not through like playing like in the streets in Africa and then moving on to Europe later on. So like they are a bit more like sturdy and well disciplined compared to other African teams. But like maybe that will then play into Croatia's favor. That they play more like a European team rather than like an unpredictable Middle Eastern team like Saudi Arabia or African team like. So that will, I don't know. We'll see how they go. I think our midfield is too strong, but my contention has always been with Croatia, like where do the goals come from? Because we don't have a recognized goal scorer. Like for instance, like with France, like whenever Mbappe or Dembele got the ball, you're like, holy shit, there's going to be a chance here. Whereas like with Croatia, when we get the ball and we're in and around the box, we're like, we're most likely going to fuck it up. That's the general feeling like amongst like everyone here. Like it's like, it's probably not going to be a goal. Whereas like with France, like it's probably going to be a goal. So it's
you're just counting on the midfield to get the ball into those positions enough so that eventually, it all just pays up.
But yeah, like we'll see how we go. Hopefully we'll get off to a good start. I think Belgium is our last game if I'm not mistaken. So if we can get 2 wins and then go into the Belgian game, like with 2 wins under our belt and qualified, then we'll be pretty happy about that.
Yeah, one last point before I throw over a question and we sort of finish it up. But it'll be interesting to see if Morocco have a sort of home ground advantage that we've seen for a lot of nations so far. Because I thought Saudi Arabia against Argentina, I thought the crowd played a big part in Saudi Arabia winning that game, and it felt like a big home game for them. No doubt. I thought Tunisia putting on such a good performance against Denmark for so long, and such a high energy performance as well. And I thought that had much of the same feels as well. So obviously, I'm pretty sure Morocco's not very far from Tunisia, so it'll be interesting to see if they have travelled over and if they make it feel like that, and how Croatia stand up to that test, because I think that's had an impact so far.
Also, the climates as
Except,
well. Like the climate of
yeah,
Morocco is
yeah.
similar to Qatar, so that might play into their hands as well.
Funnily enough, the home ground advantage didn't work for the actual home team in Qatar on the first night because they were terrible. But
Yeah, but isn't
um,
is Ecuador more? Are they more in the mountains, or are they sort of similar sort of
no,
climate?
they played high altitude.
Okay,
Ecuador.
but they
They looked
still
very physical in their game,
but they're still used
as
to
most
playing in
Ecuadorians.
heat.
Yeah, I think it's different heat.
Different, yeah,
Obviously a bit more tropical than the
yeah.
desert, but yeah, that I think the crowd has had a big part in a few of those results so far. So it'll be interesting to see if Morocco get that advantage. And I guess the last question to wrap it up, if you didn't have any other thoughts, is we thought this was a good time to do a pod because we're halfway through the first matches of every group, so we've seen half the teams now. And the obvious question is just who do you has been the most impressive so far, or the most pleasantly surprising? Who's caught your eye the most, I guess.
The obvious answer is England and France, because they did what they were expected to do, and they did so. I don't know, impressively, I suppose. Because did you expect? Like I think I said at the start, did you expect England to win 6-2, or did you expect France to win 4-1? I don't think you necessarily thought that there'd be such big score lines, especially the England one as well. Like maybe France like a 3-0 or something, so like it's still a 3-goal margin like you expected, or like maybe even a 3-1. But like England a 6-2, like I don't think, especially in World Cup games, you don't expect blowouts. And if it wasn't for that, for the late penalty, it would have been a 6-1. So, and it was still a blowout regardless. But yeah, like you don't expect them at World Cups. Like generally, you see teams like shut up shop, and like you see like relatively low scoring games. Like the lowest scoring is probably like a 3-0 maybe. So yeah, probably England. But we'll see how they go if Kane is injured, more so than what Maguire is, because I think they can easily replace Maguire, whereas Kane being injured is going to be a massive loss for them.
Yeah, I agree. Harry Kane can't be missing for this because he has the potential to light up the tournament again, much like he did in 2018. But yeah, I'd definitely go along with that. I think it's different reasons. I think I was impressed with the French just because they're all really good players and the team sort of took place kind of perfectly. But I was impressed with England because Southgate, as I said, made those changes and really impressed me, because if I had to watch another, I don't know, what do you want to call it? 3-4-3? I'd call it more a 5-2-1-2. If I had to watch another performance in that formation with so much space in the midfield and Jude Bellingham not being given opportunities to sort of join into attacks, I would have been pulling my hair out. So very pleasantly surprised to see the 4-4-2-4, 4-2-3-1, whatever you want to call it. It's very fluid. What I expect probably Brazil to be playing. And we'll have some probably storylines around that. And yeah, sort of. Also, just on a side note, as we finish up, I kind of can't wait for the tournament to sort of die down a bit and we get into the knockout stage, and then we can do some fun stuff in terms of historical context and everything like that. But yeah, I think I go along with that. England and France looking impressive. Quietly confident for the Dutch getting a big result, and yeah, I think I'm happy. I'm happy with where we're at.
Yeah, I think that's all that needs to be said. I think once the first leg of the group stages is all done, we'll do, I guess, another quick review of all the games, at least of all the big games that are, and then yeah, we'll get to see all the teams in their opening game, and then get I guess sort of a view of where they'll be. But like, I guess it's probably match day 2 that we'll see some better. We'll see a little bit better where teams are at, because like we have France, Denmark, Argentina, Mexico, Netherlands, Ecuador could be good. USA, England as well. We get Spain, Germany as well next week, I think on Sunday.
Tasty.
Yeah, so... And Portugal, Uruguay as well on Monday. Brazil, Switzerland as well. So, yeah, there's some good games coming up. And, like, we'll get a better indication of where teams are at once they're facing, like, Tier A or Tier B competition rather than, like, Tier C or Tier D competition, what they're facing right now, to be honest.
Yeah.
Well,
yeah, I agree.
Caleb, it's been a pleasure. Hopefully Croatia get the win in the next 25 minutes. And, yeah, we'll catch everyone, I don't know, in a couple of days' time.
Yeah, a couple of days. We've seen every team, like you said.
Yeah.
Perfect.
Yeah. All right. Well, to everyone listening, make sure you like, subscribe, leave a comment as well, whether you agree or disagree with us on anything. But, yeah, thanks for coming and bye for now.